Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be showing you how to use MyFitnessPal the right way. There is a wrong way, and I see a lot of people using this app the wrong way. The issue with using MyFitnessPal the wrong way is that it kind of becomes a deceiving tool. What you track and what you put into your mouth don't align, and this tool can then be almost derailing you and stopping you from achieving your goals. So it's very important that we understand how to track our calories correctly, how to select the right foods from the list of foods we have available, and also understand how to set a calorie target that is accurate and true so that we can see how close we're edging towards that daily calorie goal every day. It's an element of accountability. Firstly, I'm using the basic version here. I don't pay for premium. The way I'm going to show you, I feel is the best way to use this app without paying for premium. If you do pay for premium and you have the premium version, then using the barcode scanner that comes with that is probably the easiest way to use this. You just scan the barcode on the packet of the food that you are about to consume. You input the servings or grams or whatever measurement that you use, and it will directly allocate it to whatever meal you want to place that food towards. But for the purpose of this particular walkthrough or guide, we're using the basic version. So before we start tracking any food, I want to take you over to goals, and we want to set a calorie goal. What this is going to allow us to do is make sure that the amount of calories that we're aiming towards on a daily basis are aligned with our goals. Now, if you're a one-to-one client of ours, you're going to have a calorie goal and you'll have a carb, fat, protein breakdown, or at least protein and fat targets with the carbs to make up the remainder of calories you have available. But if you don't know how to actually calculate your calories and you don't understand how to navigate protein, fats, and carbs, let me know. And I'm happy to make a video on how to calculate your calories. It doesn't take too long. It's a pretty simple formula, and there's good tools out there to help you. So I'll be happy to do that. But let's say you do know how many calories you need on a daily basis. And let's say that's around 3,000, which is a fair amount. What we're going to do, because in this basic version, we can't actually set our carbs, fats, proteins by grams, we're going to change this to align as closely as possible to our daily targets. Now, if this was me consuming 3,000 calories, this is really accurate. Like, this is fairly accurate as to what my breakdown would look like. About 180 grams of protein, about 80 grams of fat, and around 375 or 400 grams of carbs. So that's fairly accurate. So just playing with those percentages until you get that breakdown right is a really good way to do this. Or you can just put the calorie target in, consider this redundant, and then make sure that you yourself are following what is happening in your app. I'll show you how to do that way to see that now. Just so you're aware of how much protein, how much fat you're consuming on a daily basis. Because we have to consider the full picture, not just the total amount of calories. You know, you can't just eat 3,000 calories worth of crappy foods and expect to get good results, expect to feel good. It really is about the total amount of calories, yes, but the quality of the nutrients that make up that total amount of calories on a daily basis, and the quality of the foods those nutrients come from. So when it comes to designing your nutrition, if you have a calorie and macro goal, it is important to make sure that 80% of the foods you're consuming on a daily basis are really good whole foods. Now, in terms of the tracking itself, let me just show you what we really need to look out for. Now, I'm going to use chicken as a kind of like a base food here. Now, this will apply to any meat or fish that you consume, what I'm about to show you. So let's say you have chicken breast. Okay. Now, firstly, you want to make sure that it is chicken breast and not chicken thigh or chicken leg or chicken wing. Okay, but let's say you have chicken breast and it was cooked and it was skinless and it was about a medium-sized breast. Now, you could track this. Okay, I'm going to add that to the food diary. So that's one medium cooked skinless breast. It's around 211 calories, 36 grams of protein, 7 grams of fat. Great. But that's not a very accurate measurement. That gives us a good idea, because who's to determine what this medium breast actually looks like? My idea of a medium chicken breast could be your idea of a large or your idea of a small. So in order to make sure that we're accurately tracking our food as close as possible to make sure that we have the correct data, what we really want to do is this. First of all, we need to consider when are we measuring the food? Are we measuring the food raw or are we measuring the food cooked? Because both will make a big difference. And here's what I mean by that. When it comes to myself, I like to weigh my food raw most of the time, unless I'm batch cooking, and I'll talk to you about that in a moment. But let's say I weigh my chicken raw. I'm going to choose this breast raw option. I always weigh in grams. I never go by any other serving amount, but I also don't want it 100 grams at a time, although I could put this to 1.2 or 1.25 if it was 120, 125, but I'm going to change this to 1 gram. And I'm going to change this to 200 grams, which is an average chicken breast serving that I would consume, raw weight. I'm going to add that to the food diary. Now I'm going to come across and I'm going to add the same chicken breast we had earlier. So that chicken breast, cooked, skinless. I'm going to change this. So this is a list of foods that I've been using recently. On that same chicken breast from earlier, I'm going to change this to grams. You can generally do this on most of the foods. I'm going to change that to 200 grams. I'm going to tick that, add checked, and that should add itself here. Now, I really want to help you see why it's important to input your weights and the type of food from the list accurately. If you look, we may have had 200 grams of raw chicken breast. But if we were to choose this chicken breast here, cooked skinless at 200 grams, then suddenly the calorie discrepancy becomes, it's about 140. It's exactly 140. So there's 140 calorie difference between these two items. One, because the raw weight at 200 grams, when cooked, would come down to around 150. So for me to put 200, I'm suddenly adding 140 calories to my total amount here that I haven't even consumed. I'm also adding an additional, 14 grams of protein, an additional 7 grams of fat that I haven't consumed, and all those are going towards my total calories. So if I'm on a weight loss journey or I'm aiming to build muscle and I'm inputting calories that I'm not actually consuming, then suddenly I have a misrepresentation of what's actually going on in my body, what's actually going into my mouth. What goes into my mouth is the truth. What I put into the app is only truth if it is measured accurately and with intention. So you see as well the difference. I mean, let's say a medium breast at 200 grams, they average out the same, right? However, if we look at how this is measuring the difference across the two, we got the same amount of calories, and we've got 7 grams of fat and 36 grams of protein, as opposed to 45 grams of protein and 4 grams of fat. Again, a huge discrepancy here, because whereas this is cooked, skinless, medium breast, that's great. We don't know how that is being cooked. The extra fat here and the reduction in protein could mean that the individual that input this, they were cooking with X amount of oil and they were cooking X amount less chicken. So that means that the calories would be the same, but the protein would be different. So we really have to, if you want to be as accurate as possible, you want to measure your meat, your fish raw, because it's going to give you the best possible guide, the most accurate data in exchange for your investment. Does that make sense? So let's say, for example, let's go away from the chicken for a moment. Or let's say you batch cook chicken. Okay, let's say you batch cook, because I want to help you understand this too. If you batch cook chicken, the way I do this, if I was to batch cook chicken, I would get a kilo of chicken. So I'm going to put 1,000 grams there. Okay. Actually, wouldn't even put it here. What I would do is, if I was batch cooking a kilo of chicken, I would batch cook the kilo and I would distribute that batch between 5 separate meals. And then I would just put 200 grams here, because, and this is important, if I batch cook 1 kilogram of chicken and I consume that kilogram of chicken across 5 days, I am going to be having an average of 200 grams of raw chicken a day. It's just inevitable, because I know that I've cooked 5 times 200 grams. Does that make sense? So whether you're batch cooking or whether you're cooking an individual meal, measure raw, input raw ingredients, and you will get accurate calories, fats, carbs, protein. You'll get accurate data. Okay, now let's talk about protein, carbohydrate sources. So say, for example, we have rice. I'll just put rice here. Okay, now you can see here, white rice, 204 calories, 204 calories, 204 calories. These are all cooked weights. Here, however, raw weight. Okay, so I'm always prepping my rice raw. I'm going to change this to 1 gram. I'm going to go 100, which is my average portion. I'm going to add that to the food diary, and boom, around 80 grams of carbs, 7 protein, 1 fat. It's super accurate. So around 100 grams of raw weight. If for whatever reason, and I'll touch on this in another video because it's kind of like a separate topic, but if for whatever reason I didn't weigh the raw, I had no idea what the raw weight of my rice was, because I was in a rush and I was cooking a load and whatnot. What I would do is this, because rice on average is multiplied by 3. So the raw weight of rice generally 3x's once cooked. I would go rice, search. Let's go. We got any basmati? I'll go basmati again, because I want you to see that it should be, which I'm wrong. So let's go. Yeah, 1 cup, 204 calories. Let's go grams. So we go, if 100 grams, we're going 300 grams. So let's multiply by 3. Within 20 calories, you got a difference there. But you could put that down, 280, 2.8 to 3. Okay, you got a 4 gram carb difference and 1 gram protein. You're pretty much on the ball. The sodium difference will be subject to the amount of salt in the meal. So this is challenging, because this isn't actually accurate. You would have to add the sodium separately, but it doesn't matter. At least the carbs, the proteins, the calories are correct. If you're measuring sodium super accurately, then it is going to make a difference. Those are the 2 most important measurements to consider. Everything else is pretty straightforward. Oil is oil, you pour it. Nuts are nuts, you weigh them. They're always going to be the same, whether they have been roasted or unroasted. One thing that is important, and I'll show you on a full day of eating of my own. So this is yesterday's food. We ate 2,783 calories. This was my full day of eating. Everything was measured. I weighed everything personally. This year, this Greek 0%, 300 grams, this is Greek yogurt. Broccoli is the brand of yogurt that I used. It's really important, I feel, and you might call me a bit inattentive for this, or a bit OTT, But if, say, for example, you have Greek yogurt, this is what I like to do. You got all these different options, and you can see 100 grams, 91 calories, 100 grams, 126, 170, 110. Like, there's so many different options. Try your best to find, I know it's broccoli because I get it from Aldi. So broccoli, 100 grams. But you'll see there's a slight calorie discrepancy. I'd go for these ones because they're the same, although this one is too. But anyway, we'll go for this one. I would also check the tub. Like, I'll always measure up against the tub just to see what that looks like. Go 1 gram, 300. I mean, you can go 100 and then just do 3 as well. Like, you don't always have to go down to 1 gram. But then there, we're going to have the accurate representation of 30 grams. This is what I'm looking for, 30 grams of protein. Because if you choose the wrong yogurt, for example, then it can screw everything up. The purpose of this is just to help you understand that with the correct calories, so having your calorie target, you have something to aim for. Like in this day, I went over. So I went 289 calories over, 31 grams of carbs over, 40 grams of protein over. This is not an accurate goal for me. But anyway, you get an idea of what is actually happening, especially, but only if you track accurately. If you do not weigh your food, and you don't know the accurate amounts, and you don't track accurately, then you will get misrepresentation. Don't be fooled by your app. If you're not getting results, the app is not. The app is lying to you, even if it says it's right. If you're not getting results and you're following a nutrition structure, a calorie goal, a macro breakdown that is aligned and in line with your goal, and you're not seeing results, then there's a chance that you're inaccurate when it comes to measurements, and what's going into your mouth is also not aligned with what you think you're consuming. So bear that in mind. If you want any videos on how to, how to actually break everything down, like I said, calories, macros, proteins, carbs, fats, how to understand, what a nutrition plan looks like for building muscle, for losing fat, what a nutrition plan looks like for increasing performance and actually being well fueled instead of just running on empty, then let me know. I'll make that video. There is also a water consumption tool, which can be really handy for just, like, I drank 3 liters on this day. It can be really handy for just understanding what is, measuring what's going into your body and just keeping track of that. And you can write some notes as well. Maybe you had an upset stomach after a meal. I don't really use that tool, but yeah. So this is how to use MyFitnesspal right. Hope this helps. Let me know.